go.
Bonjour, Capet. Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour.
Welcome, everyone, back to another transformative episode of Ballers to Balding, where, as always, we'll have some strong takes and some weak follicles. And if you like what you hear, and how could you not, please like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Spotify, because unlike our hairlines and our genitals, there's still a chance that our audience can grow. Now, probably as nobody noticed, we did take a week off. The Ballers to Balding front office in Houston gave Ross a 2-week vacation, and he took advantage. He went to Europe. Tell us about the trip, buddy. How was it?
All right. Well, it was an exciting 2 weeks. I went to France and Italy. I'm not sure if you could. Yeah, I could know if you could tell that. And you know, I my overall opinion of my trip and being in Europe was it was fine. It's fine. I mean, the thing you got to realize about the French people is they really try to indoctrinate you into their culture. But as you can tell, my will was too strong for that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't let them do that. I wouldn't let them do that. They're like pushing chocolate croissants, it's crystal meth, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I got to tell you, here's the other thing. So, two different thoughts. France, as you know, they're pretty cocky. And they really think that, you know, Paris is it, and they think their art's the best, and everything's great about their art. But the problem is when you go like to someplace like the Louvre and you look at the art, there's always the commentary that's going with it, and it's so annoying. Like, I'm looking at a Van Gogh, and this guy is saying this is from a happy time in Vincent's life, but you can see from his quick strokes that he was actually in conflict. And I'm like, how do you know? How do you freaking know that? Maybe he was like late for a workout. You just, how do you know that? Okay. Then we move over to the Renoir exhibit, which they now have there, which is a big deal. And again, the guy's like, you can see from the colors that they're using that this signifies the happiness of the time. Or the guy was trying to pick up a chick who liked pink and red. You just don't know, dude. You just don't know. And it's like, it's so annoying. And the other thing that they do in France, like, I am a big smiler. If I see someone walking down the street, I give him a big smile. Look.
Yeah.
Okay. I give him a little smile. That's just what I do.
You have white teeth. And they pop because you're so tanned also. Thank you. You might as well just
stop.
Flaunt them.
Please
might as well flaunt them. Go on.
Anyway, so I would smile at people in France and Paris. They do not smile back. Okay, now part of that's because they have bad teeth, but they do not smile back.
Because they don't have cosmetic dentistry. That's why.
So I said to one of the guides that we had, I said, I don't understand why people here don't smile back. He said, because in Paris you have to earn it. Okay, we freaking earned it in WW2, my friend.
So
come on.
So after you punched him in the face, was he that nicer? God.
I mean, come on. You know what I said to him? Oh! I have to footnote my son and his buddy because they actually say that every time they talk about French. Okay, and Italy, just to make it quick, awesome, great people. But for some reason, I've watched the Godfather trilogy 3 times since I've been back. I'm not sure why. But otherwise, really interesting trip. It's fine. I'm not a travel guy, so I don't think it's like as big of a deal as everyone else does. But, I enjoyed it.
You didn't even bring it back to sports. See, my biggest problem with Europe is that they have such a lame sports culture.
They do. They really
do. The entire continent lives and dies on soccer, which is a sport where you're lucky if you see one goal.
That's so true.
It's true. It's no wonder they lose their minds and riot after the games. They're desperate for some excitement.
Right. Right. And by the way, they riot.
I guess even harassing the Jews gets boring after a while.
And by the way, they riot until a German stormtrooper walks in, and then they all hide.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I will tell you, you are so right. And the one thing that the guides kept showing us was these images of great soccer players, and they'd say, "Oh, that guy's so and so," and he'd look at me, and I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway,
weak. You should have just been like weak.
Yeah,
weak.
Yeah. It kind of is what it is.
In addition to everyone in Europe, why don't we continue with 2 more douchebags of the week? You'll pick one. It's everyone's favorite. you pick one and I'll pick one. I mean, it's good to have you back. And I think the whole sports world rested easy last week, knowing that they were immune from our little segment here. They're back on notice. So why don't you go put someone on blast? Here we go. Douchebag of the week. Hit it.
All right. To me, this is an easy week. And it is Mike Vrabel, a douche. Sorry, I'm picking on the Patriots, but come on, Mike. And again, I have nothing against Mike Vrabel. I think he's a good coach. He was a good player. But last week, he may have been the guy who lost his reputation as fast as anyone since that fat to skinny guy from Subway. I mean, he really freaking went down.
You're comparing him to a child molester. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so what happened? Well, in case you've been under a rock, basically there were some pictures that came out of him and Diana Rossini, who is a writer or was a writer at The Athletic, and she focuses on football. She was also at ESPN.
So not all she focuses on.
And so it was a romantic getaway in Arizona. Yay, Arizona. And they just had a couple pictures of them in a hot tub and holding hands. So at that point, I think the easy answer is, and I never understand why people don't do this, there were some pictures taken of me. I was in an inappropriate situation. I apologize to this person, that person, my family, da-da-da-da-da. I will be answering no more questions on that. Done. Okay? That's not what Mike Vrabel did. In response to the initial questions about this, he looked at the reporters and said, those questions are laughable. Okay. Meanwhile, Diana Rossini, because The Athletic, this is a bigger deal for her because she's actually a reporter and they have ethics issues involved since she is a reporter on the Patriots. And if she's screwing around with the coach and getting stories, that's a little bit different deal. They initiate an investigation. She resigns and says, I didn't do anything. This is BS. Oh, and by the way, this is all misogynistic. Shocker. She went to that. She played that card. Mm-hmm. So both of them vehemently say that this didn't happen. That maybe could have ended it for a bit. But what happens next is Mike realizes this is not going to end this. And Mike Vrabel then calls a press conference. He's had difficult conversations with his family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Makes it obvious that they were fooling around, which again now throws Diana Rossini under the bus. And it's a good thing Mike did that because a few days later, pictures come out of the two of them
at a
kissing.
At a Coldplay concert.
No, 6 years ago at a bar, holding hands again and kissing. So then what happens is after these new pictures come out, and I'm sorry this is a long story, but it just keeps escalating. After these new pictures come out, Mike says, okay, I have to work on my family. I'm going to miss day 3 of the draft, which is on a Saturday. Why? Because, the therapy place is closed on Monday? I don't really understand why you have to take Saturday off, but the bigger deal is now it becomes a distraction for the football team.
Right.
Bottom line is not a great way to start off your off season or your next season defending the AFC title. And he literally loses all his credibility, and he kind of looks and is my douchebag of the week.
Yeah. Listen, gotta love a tough guy coach who preaches discipline and accountability and then can't keep his dick in his pants like he's a retired dentist in Scottsdale. Your neighbor, look out the window. No offense, actually. Yeah. So I usually like to make my douchebag just one person. I've always done that. But this week I am going to make an exception because I'm very passionate about this.
I love this.
My award this week goes to the committee for the LA 28 Olympics that decided on ticket prices. Whatever shadowy band of spreadsheet goblins and pricing consultants and executive vampires that sat in a conference room and decided the best way to welcome Los Angeles to the Olympics was to charge residents the GDP of a small island nation just to purchase fucking tickets. They might be the only group of people on Earth who saw those Olympic rings and thought, let's make this worse than buying floor seats for Taylor Swift. Here's a quick fact. LA 28 ticket prices are reportedly around 17% higher than the 24 games in Paris just a couple years ago. 17%.
Unbelievable.
And look, in all fairness, and you were just there, Paris is known to be incredibly inexpensive. So, there is that. So I got my allotted window as a resident and went online. And the first event I checked was swimming. Okay. And this isn't the finals. I'm not talking about the medal round. I'm not talking about, Michael Phelps coming out of retirement riding a dolphin. I'm talking about the preliminary heats in the largest swimming venue in Olympic history, $1,100 a ticket for prelim. That means 4 tickets for the family, $4,400. And then they slap on a 24% fee because naturally the privilege of being robbed has administrative costs on top of it. So grand total is around $5,500 without tax. And again, not a medal round. This is the preliminary heat, right? You're watching some swimmer from Malta who still was using floaties 6 months ago. And then they tell us, they keep telling people, there are cheaper tickets. They do exist, but nobody I've talked to has seen any available. I mean, I guess they're being sold directly from Bigfoot. All right, now let's move on. Let's move on to the medal round. All right. You want to see the best swimmers in the world swimming against each other? That's $1,800 a ticket plus the same fees. And, so for 4, it's roughly around a little over $9,000, $9,000 for one event. I mean, for $9,000, you could buy a used Camry and drive laps around the stadium chanting USA. You could take your entire family on a vacation to Hawaii. You could get a full year of homeowners insurance at a small house in Los Angeles, or pay for therapy after trying to buy LA 28 tickets online. And remember, once again, we're only talking one event. Like, what if you also want to see gymnastics or track or basketball or freaking table tennis, for Christ's sakes, which I couldn't get? No problem. Just take out a second mortgage, sell your car, and tell your kids that instead of going to college, they're going to be watching handball quarterfinals from row double Z. So after all the public outrage over the pricing, what was the excuse of the Olympic Committee? They proudly declared that Los Angeles as a city isn't subsidizing the Olympics. For the first time ever, the Olympic Committee is paying for it themselves. And I'm like, I can't tell. Is that a good thing? I mean, last month, roughly $300 million in fraud was independently uncovered in the Los Angeles hospice scandal. You probably missed it. You were out of the country. That's just one of the many multi-million-dollar fraud scandals. So apparently, there's a ton of money floating out there. It's just lining the pockets of fraudsters and politicians, and there isn't any left over to make the Olympics accessible to anyone who actually lives here. So here's a thought. Maybe skim a little off the fraud recovery pile and let a family from Boyle Heights watch a couple events without having to liquidate their 529 plan. The Olympics are supposed to inspire kids, but instead, kids are learning valuable lessons like dynamic pricing, institutionalized corruption, cartel economics, and of course, service fees created by Satan. So, congratulations to LA 28 committee. You took the Olympics and made it feel like booking a last-minute flight the day before Thanksgiving. You are the douchebags of the week. And if you want a personalized plaque to commemorate this award, I will sell you one for the low price of $6,000 plus 24% service fee and tax and parking, and shipping is going to be $1,000. And I do accept tips. And that is my douchebag of the week. I am irate, along with everyone else. I did buy tickets, and it cost me a fortune. I'll probably sell them on the black market a couple years from now. So, Ross, we have a lot to discuss, and a lot of it is annoying. We're going to recap some Boston teams. We got playoffs, we got firings, we got all sorts of shit to do.
Kind of a bad week.
Yeah, this is
Boston
definitely
fans. Kind of a bad week for Boston.
If you're a Boston fan watching this, you might want to pause it, pour yourself a tall single malt or a beer or maybe an edible. You might need it for the rest of this podcast. I know I did need it, and that's why I am fucked up right now. No, I'm not. I'm kidding. It's a joke. Don't drink, kids. All right. Red Sox. You want to start with the Red Sox?
So after a 9-18 start, the Red Sox fired Alex Cora and 5 of their coaches. They also reassigned Jason Varitek former catcher, champion, captain, to a different position in the organization. And there is some word that he will now leave the organization because, of course, he would. And honestly, the fact that this happened in April, it's depressing, but it's really not surprising because as is always seems to be the case, especially with the Red Sox, anytime they have an issue, it literally is like a Greek tragedy. The things that happen, you can't believe how bad it is, and it makes everything look like the entire organization is exploding. So what happened this year, though, and the question is, well, did Alex really deserve to be fired? Was that the theory behind the Red Sox, and Craig Breslow is the GM, basically, and the theory behind their team was run prevention, which in other words means our hitting sucks and we're going to rely on our pitching.
Right.
And it's like seriously saying, like, the girl, when you're talking about a girl, like she has the good personality, that's basically what it is. It's a good analogy. And the fact is that in reality, they can hit. And their pitching hasn't been that great. So their pitching hasn't been dominant. Now, people in Boston are going nuts because everyone hates John Henry. Because in addition to looking, as I said previously, like a rooster, there's an idea that he doesn't care. And then Sam Kennedy, who's the CEO of the team, he's apparently a yes man. And then you have Craig Breslow, who apparently can't communicate with his players and also seems like he really can't do a great job. I mean, they had so much hope going into the season because they had a lot of young guys, as we talked about. Their pitching, they did.
We just did an episode talking about this.
Yeah,
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and because it's only a few weeks.
We had guarded optimism.
Correct, but they had young guys. They had good pitching, and before this season, going into it, they had some good veterans, Travis Story and Bregman, and they ended up not signing Bregman. So why does this matter? Why is this so depressing? Because it's April and baseball looks like it's over for Boston fans.
Yeah, the flowers haven't even bloomed yet.
Yeah.
First of all, it's very hard to take you seriously wearing a beret. That's my first thing. And I'm wondering if people are flipping around who've never seen the show and they find our show and they're like, who the fuck is this guy in the beret? Gone. But you do look good and you look like you have a full head of hair.
Let me just say this before you start. This is the new me. So you're going to have to get used to it.
I think it's good. You said it's like the girl. It made me think the beginning of the year, every year it feels like we're trying to convince ourselves that this is the year they're going to be better. Oh, well, they did get some pitchers and if the young hitters and if Roman is good. And it's like the girl hoping her cheating boyfriend has finally changed. And you know what? He hasn't changed. He's still texting other girls. He's still lying. He's still having sex with Diana Rossini like everybody else. And that's the Red Sox. Every spring they show up with flowers, and they promise, hey, I finally changed. And then by late April, they're secretly on Tinder in the bathroom. It's not like the coaching staff was batting .214 with runners in scoring position. Those are the players. And not that they don't deserve some of the blame. But, when you fire 6 guys in May, maybe the issue isn't what they're drawing on the whiteboard. April, I'm sorry. Maybe the issue isn't what they're drawing on the whiteboard. Maybe, it's the people assembling the team like they're fucking on Craigslist. And,
Craig Breslow.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at their offense. They've only had 18 home runs this year, and they're at Fenway. Their OPS is 667, which means they might as well be swinging with pool noodles. It's like crazy. They're pitching. They have a 4.44 ERA, and they paid Sonny Gray $31 million. He has a 4.3 ERA and soft tissue injury already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, are they rebuilding? Are they contending? Are they spending money? Are they saving money? No one knows. It feels like the Fenway Magic. It used to feel like this was a place where there's going to be a contender, whether they are or not. Now it just feels like a museum where tourists come to see Tampa Bay score 10 runs. It's a bummer.
Yep.
Unfortunately for us, the Red Sox are just the pregame of aggravation.
Correct.
Right? The Celtics are the main event this week of what the fuck. I mean, last night they're leading the series against Philly 3-1, and they lost their second straight home game and played so shitty in the first half. Second half, I mean, it was horrendous. And to me, it's like the Celtics did what the Celtics always do when pressure hits. They forget what got them the lead. Because they were winning in the first half. They had like a 13-point lead in the second half. And they give up the ball movement and the pace and everybody getting involved. And instead, Tatum and especially Brown last night went straight back to their favorite bad idea, which is, we're the stars, so it's time for hero ball. And you can cue the, slow motion isolations and the dribbling into three people and the contested step backs. And everyone else just stands around watching them, holding their dicks like they're waiting for an Uber, and they just fall apart. They were horrible. It's basketball narcissism to me, This isn't what builds the lead. This is what blows it. It's the reason why in close games this year, they were only a 500 team, middle of the pack. In clutch games, they were, even though they have elite talent, because they do the same things over and over. Last night, they scored 11 points in the entire fourth quarter at home in a close game. Where the hell's Missoula?
He had a bad game last night. Missoula had a bad game last night.
By the way, I'm saying probably what every Celtics fan is saying.
Yeah. The fact of the matter, the problems start with Tatum and Brown, but I also think that with Derek White playing the way he's playing, and he looks scared to shoot because he's shooting so poorly. They really only have like 2.5 scorers. Pritchard being the half. I mean, sometimes Pritchard is unbelievable, but I have nothing. Pritchard's fine. He's the one guy on the entire team who I have no complaint with. But it's just the problem that everyone that I've always had, and I think it kind of goes to what you're saying is, they look great when they're hitting shots, but when they're not hitting shots, they don't seem to have that plan B. And I will tell you, during the season, it seemed like Brown was able to generate twos and foul shots and etc. But man, those couple games that they've lost, and they've already lost 2 games at home against a team they really should have swept.
2 at home, 2 of 3 they've lost at home.
Yeah. And you're getting nothing out of White, as we talked about. Queta has almost as many fouls as field goal attempts. And Hauser once again is giving him nothing. So, I think this is going 7. I think they're going to win, but I think it's going 7.
It could. Or you know what the problem is? Who the hell knows what it's going? They're so if we had done this a couple days ago, we would have been like, they look great. And after last night, we're like, God, they can't beat anyone. And I think, and I could be wrong, I'm not as much of a genius as people give me credit for. Is that, you say when those guys aren't scoring, they don't have a lot of scores. I think that those guys have to play a certain way to make the other guys scores. Like if Brown is dribbling into 3 guys and then there's 1 second left and he throws it out and someone has to heave up a 3-pointer, they're not going to be as good when they're in the flow of the offense. And I don't know why. Look, Pritchard played like a legitimate star in game 4. Why aren't they using him more? He spreads the floor. When you spread the floor, then you're not dribbling into 3 guys.
Pritchard played 11 minutes in the second half.
That's insane.
That can't happen. That can't happen. I will tell you that I am oddly unhappy when the Celtics lose. And I wasn't like that for most of the year before Tatum came back, because as I said on one of our other podcasts, I love watching them. If they lose, it's okay. They play well. They're playing well together and blah. And now I feel all those old frustrations coming back. And I was in a bad mood today, other than when I put on my beret. And it's just, it just.
Can I ask you a favor?
Mm.
Can I see what you look like when you're sad after the game in the beret?
In the beret?
Yeah. Let me see the face.
You ready?
Yeah. Similar. It's similar. I thought it was going to be like something like that, but similar.
No, it's only I say ho.
Let me tell you something. To add to the frustration of the Celtics' loss, the Bruins last night had the nerve to win, which is frustrating for a completely different reason. Because where the hell was that effort when they got smoked 2 straight games at home? In game 4,
too sweet.
I mean, in Game 4, they looked slow and soft. They gave up 4 goals in the first period. It looked like they were, late for dinner reservations. Swayman got pulled. He was so pissed he actually yelled at his teammates on the bench, and everyone was psyched about that because they deserved it. Even the players were like, yeah, we deserved it. And I mean, it tells you everything you need to know. This team's biggest problem isn't really the talent. It's the inconsistency. One night they look slow and disconnected. The next night they're suddenly like physical and intense, and Swayman standing on his head and Pasternak buries an overtime winner. It's crazy to me. And it's exactly the issue is that, the switch is there, but they just don't seem to turn it on until the house is on fire. So, I mean, they don't have championship DNA. They are not a great playoff team. They're great one night, terrible the next, which is no way to win a 7-game series. And it's like, it's a different frustration than the Celtics, but it's just as frustrating. Like one night last night you see them, they're like, they could come back. And you know what? They're going to go home and they're going to lose by 6. I have a better chance of scoring $28 gymnastics tickets for the Olympics than for them to actually win this series. And the thing about both these teams that pisses me off is, the Bruins and the Celtics combined in these 2 series are 1-4 at home. There's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, this
is
so
very
frustrating.
This is very frustrating day. I mean, we can talk about the great stuff the Bruins did, or they did this or they did that, but it doesn't matter because tomorrow they're going to go out, and I have full confidence that they're going to lay an egg, and the Celtics too. If the Celtics could win in Philadelphia, imagine if they win 3 games on the road and lose 2 at home and win the series. I mean, what does that say about their team?
Do you imagine losing 3 games if you're Philly?
Yeah,
and now Embiid has confidence. He's got rhythm. It's not great.
They didn't. Where was the adjustment last night on him?
Yeah.
He was just backing people down.
Ridiculous.
And it was Russ. We're out of time. It went so fast. It happens when someone's wearing a piece of headgear from a different country. It seems like things go a lot faster. It was great to see you again. I'm glad you're back in the country. I'm glad you made it back safely, and that you didn't get any kind of parasites, and that you didn't develop an attitude that makes everybody hate you. And we'll see you soon, man. I love you.
All right, buddy.
See you next week. Another great episode. We have some fun stuff coming up on future episodes.
All right, you the man. Love you, buddy.